we're here today, this morning, with the Peace Caucus. Very excited to find out what you're all about, but quickly, could each of you introduce yourselves?
Certainly. Yes, I'm Shelley White.
Patrice Sutton.
I'm Ann Hirschman.
Bob Gould.
Great. Well, tell me, how long has the Peace Caucus been around, and what is your focus?
So the Peace Caucus was founded in 1985. At the time, Victor Seidel, who was also a co-founder of Physicians for Social Responsibility, was the president of the American Public Health Association. It was the time of Reagan, and so many of the cuts and so many of the policies that now, of course, have even blossomed more into incredible inequalities in the world were just kind of getting a lot of traction. Mm-hmm. And as the caucus was really formed to make it very clear that peace is a prerequisite of public health. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to bring voice to those issues throughout, so that people who are working on whatever they're working on in the organization, they understand that peace and conflict is having a big influence, or the absence of peace, I should say, is having a big influence on their work, whether it's from a diversion of resources or from direct and indirect effects of peace and war.
I see. So conflict or peace is an underlying factor in the general health of people.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And the caucus was founded by Gail Gordon and Larry Egbert, mm-hmm. and Dr. Seidel was extremely important in the forming of the caucus. Mm-hmm. And then in 1986, APHA was in Las Vegas for its annual meeting, and there was a huge demonstration of APHA at the Nevada test site to stop nuclear testing. Okay. And 130 APHA people got arrested and did nonviolent civil disobedience. So the beginning of the Peace Caucus was really doing nonviolent civil disobedience, as well as policy programs and publications. And so I, at the time, it was like my first APHA in 1985. Mm-hmm. And so I thought APHA is all about peace and really public health people speaking up in terms of trying to protect public health through building peace and opposing conflicts.
How many members of the Peace Caucus are there?
There are about 400 members, but there's really a core group, many of whom are here. And others, including Amy Hagopian, aside people here are kind of currently people who are really moving the program forward.
And were you all founding members?
I was, and Bob was.
Mm-hmm. I came a few years later.
Okay. And yourself?
Well, I came a number of years later, about 10 years ago I became involved with the Peace Caucus.
Very good. And what current programs or things are you focused on as a Peace Caucus? What are your issues and programmatically, what are you?
Right, so there's kind of three areas of work. One is policy papers. Well, I'll let Bob maybe speak about that. Mm-hmm. Another is the program every year. Mm-hmm. And the third is publications. And we're doing, maybe Shelley could talk a little bit about and some of those issues in terms of the primary prevention of war group.
Sure. Yeah, so about 10 years ago, I had done a study with Dr. Bernard Lown. He's a Nobel Prize winner who is also fairly seminal in the history of Physicians for Social Responsibility at IPPNW, which is an international collective of physicians coming together around the aim of preventing nuclear war. And so we were really interested in the ways that public health is responding to war itself. And we studied the curricula at the top 20 schools of public health. So it was over 6,000 courses, and what we found was that only 0.5% of those courses were focused on war, and moreover, 4 total courses were actually thinking about prevention of war. And so we sort of used the moment to try to call public health back to its roots as a profession, because what we're supposed to be doing is always prevention first. And what that would really mean when it comes to war is actually questioning militarism itself. Like questioning how it is that we continue to justify a society organized around the aims and the arms of pursuing war as an agenda. You know, since 9/11, we've doubled our military spending, 4 times more than we've increased spending on other human issues. And so we formed this group called the Public Health Working Group on Primary Prevention of War. Again, just trying to call public health back to its roots, to think about how we react to war, and hopefully not in such a way that's literally reactive to the aftermath of war, but that equally we're working to prevent war. And so luckily, Patrice and Bob and others have welcomed us as a collaborative group of the Peace Caucus. So it's been an amazing
That's very
collaboration.
fascinating, very interesting. So, are there any particular things that you are specifically focused on at the moment? Any conflicts or concerns, either in the U.S. or abroad, that the Peace Caucus is focusing on?
Do you want to talk about the policy statements?
Sure. Well, since the beginning of the Peace Caucus, we have had, as folks have mentioned, a variety of policies that are in line with what Patrice was talking about, the Peace Caucus foundings, but also relate to ongoing work with many of the organizations that we work with throughout the year. So in addition to being in the Peace Caucus, for example, I've worked together with the former president, the late Victor Seidel, on developing many resolutions that have become policy within the American Public Health Association that are against the buildup of our nuclear weapons force, for the abolition of nuclear weapons, and also have raised opposition to all forms of militarism. So for a very comprehensive statement, which sort of encapsulates much of our work, was in 2009, which was a statement for all public health practitioners to be informed by the impacts of war and militarization on all aspects of public health. So that deals with, what's the consequences to the soldiers who fight our wars, and in particular has been brought many of the veterans' health issues, both in terms of direct consequences of conflict, but all that they bring home in the myriad number of illnesses and PTSD and things like that. We also aim, as that larger framework indicated, to provide points of intersectionality with other movements. So militarism is not just the expression of fighting wars, but what are we fighting wars over? And many of our issues consistent with current policies that are up for possible adoption at this session include opposition to the war in Yemen as a late breaker resolution, and a larger regular resolution to protect health workers who are increasingly involved and under the gun in trying to serve people who are in these various wars on terror around the world. And when we really look at it in terms of where we see APHA and our organizational priorities, we have to think very much about the central economic circuit of pumping oil that's going to kill us in exchange for the arms that fuel the militarism. So there's a lot of ways that the work that we do embraces these ongoing concerns of our world and our organization.
Okay, great. So I know you guys have a full day today, and we got started a little bit late, but any last kind of comments or thoughts about this year's APHA and what you're doing? I'll toss that to Patricia.
Well, one piece that we haven't really talked about, I think, is the issue that the Peace Caucus has done a great deal of work under Anne's leadership around veterans' health. So I think maybe we should.
I represent veterans and street medics. I'm on the board of directors of Vietnam Veterans Against the War and have worked with them since they founded in '67. And we knew then that war was creating a public health crisis for our returning veterans and for the communities in which they live and the families that they love. And the anti-war and progressive veterans movements have been very supportive. We've had Bobby Mueller has spoken. We've had a lot of amazing veterans that have taken the brave step of presenting in front of what for them is a hugely strange audience. And I think it's informed a lot of public health professionals about war coming home.
Great. Well, thank you. Peace Conference.
Thank you.
Peace Caucus and Conference, and good conference ahead.
Thank you.